Hey everybody, what's going on? We got some Guns N' Roses news today. The first thing I want to let you guys know, and I was kind of surprised to hear this. I heard this from a couple of my subscribers and commenters. One of the guys, actually two of the guys who went to the Sydney shows, talked about how poor the actual sound mix was. One guy said he went to last night's show and he said the mix was muddy. He said we were sitting in the midsection, and for the first four songs it was difficult to even make out what they were. My bro was very disappointed, saying he's never been to a worse concert. I didn't mind as soon as Slash started doing his solos, the mix was better, but Axl was lost with the wind or even times overtaken by Slash. With today's technology, this shouldn't be happening with or without the wind, so disappointing. He also talked about the crowd interaction was missing, barely any moments of Axl talking to us. It just seemed like a long drag. Toward the end they sounded better because Axl got on the keys and there was more focus on the lyrics and melody. They needed to control those drums and guitars which got in the way of the vocals. It was a bad mix. Maybe it sounded much better in the mosh, but I saw a lot of people leave early. And you know what? This is an issue that at least I've experienced at concerts. Like a lot of concerts I go to, whether it's like at a hockey arena or somewhere else, the mixing is terrible. And maybe it's because the hockey arena I go to is like 35, 40 years old, but the vocals are always so low in the mix, and the guitars are muddy, and they basically drown out the vocals. And I hope when I go see Guns in the outdoor stadium, which I haven't been to before, it sounds much better. But I did see a number of comments about people complaining about the winds impacting the actual sound. There was actually another comment we also had from another subscriber. So this guy said that on the Australian promoters Facebook page, there were heaps of negative comments. Most have been taken down about the poor sound. Some suggested a bank of speakers weren't working at all. And they said a lot of people were talking about demanding a refund because the sound issues were that bad. And that was a comment about the first night that Guns played. And I'm kind of actually really surprised. I hope this doesn't happen again. But I've read other people who've said they went to the show and it was really good. So I think it may have just been depending on where you were sitting. But that's really shitty that, you don't want to go to a concert, pay all that money, and then, have the sound just be garbage. But I'd love to hear from some of you guys who attended the shows in Sydney. Like, let me know, was the sound quality really that bad, or was it okay where you were sitting? But let's go on to our next news. So a writer in Australia named Bernard Zuhl, he is a writer for the Sydney Morning Herald, and he wrote a review of Guns N' Roses' first show in Australia in Brisbane. It was a pretty negative review, and he actually tweeted out that he was supposed to do a review of the Sydney show, but I guess management did not allow him into the show. So I've actually linked to the actual review of his Brisbane show. It's pretty negative. It talks about Axl's weight, how he can't keep up with the songs, how the overall concert seemed more like a parody than anything else, and how he was really negative about the Chinese democracy songs too. So I think maybe management read that, they didn't like it, and said, hey, we're not going to let you into the Sydney show because it's going to be more of the same stuff you're going to write. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. From a lot of the reviews I've read, they've been good, with the exception of, the sound not being that good. And that's not really the band's fault. It's more of the people setting the stage up and that kind of stuff. Guys looking after the actual mixing. So Duff and Slash both went to the Bruce Springsteen concert in Sydney, I believe. And this is the photo that a fan took of both of them in the crowd. So they actually tweeted about it. Slash said he went to the concert, had a great time, complimented Max Weinberg, who's the drummer for Bruce Springsteen. And Duff also gave a shout out to them on Twitter as well. And then there's an article talking about Guns N' Roses' show in 1993 in Melbourne, Australia. It was, I think, one of the biggest shows that ever been played in Melbourne in history, and it's a nice little article. Talks about how big the crowd was. It talked a bit about Duff's recollection of the gig, and there's some photos that I hadn't really previously seen before. So I've linked to the article if you guys want to go check it out. Let's go into our next piece of news. So we got some news from, I'm guessing this is Spain. It says Athletic Bilbao opt for Guns N' Roses concert over hosting Copa del Rey final between Barcelona and Alaves. And I apologize if I butchered any of the pronunciation, but basically they're just talking about how the stadium opted to have the Guns N' Roses concert there instead of having a soccer match. And I don't know if I imagine they had already previously announced where Guns was going to play when they play in Spain, because normally they have to say where the venue is at. But that was a little piece of news that was around. And then we got one last piece of news. So Team Rock has an article called Ignore the Haters, Why I'm Going to See Guns N' Roses. And the author is a guy who's actually been a big Guns N' Roses fan for many years. He actually saw them back in 1987, in June of 87, when they actually played 3 shows at the Marquee Club in London. And it was actually the band's first European performances. And it's kind of like I guess, if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, this is like one of the legendary shows to have actually seen Guns N' Roses. the cost to get in was only £4. And there's actually a photo of the gig with his picture. You can only see the top of his head, but he said you can actually hear him on the recording of Knocking on Heaven's Door taped at the final show, and it was released as a B-side on the 12-inch of Night Train a couple of years later. And he said that's him screaming during the quiet bits. So it's an interesting article. I've linked to it down below if you guys want to check it out. That does it for today's Guns N' Roses news. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, make sure you subscribe to my channel for all things related to Guns N' Roses, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at Guns N' Roses Daily. I've been teasing a lot more of my Guns N' Roses True Story episodes that are going to be coming up on my channel, so if you guys want to know what you can expect, go follow me on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good weekend. Take care.